Welcome in, Falcons fans. Your boy Bryce Lewis back at it again for more Atlanta Falcons content. And obviously, the Falcons are on a bye week this week, but that doesn't mean the conversation stops. I've brought on Jarrett King of the King's Landing podcast onto the show to talk to me about what we've seen from the Falcons up to this point. Obviously, a mixed bag, but love to get obviously someone else's opinion on that. And Jarrett, before we start, how are you doing today, man?
I'm good. Thanks, Bryce, for letting me get on the show.
Hey, man, I appreciate you taking time out of the busy schedule to come on for show, man. And listen, I would say the first 4 weeks have been a busy 4 weeks in terms of conversation and different things that have been had about this team. The Falcons currently sit at 2-2 going into the bye week with probably, I guess you could maybe say, most impressive victory coming this past week, or Minnesota, depending on which one you prefer. But overall, I think, it feels better to be 2-2 than 1-3 potentially going into the bye, which the Falcons are at 2-2. So my first question to you, sir, is just your general feeling on the team. I guess coming into the year, what your thoughts were, and now kind of 4 weeks in, obviously still a short sample size, but 4 weeks in, how are you feeling about the Atlanta Falcons?
2-2 is where I kind of drew the line. I said anything worse than 2-2 is trouble. But we won the 2 games I thought we were going to lose and lost the 2 games I thought we were going to win. Don't like being 0-2 in the division. But I mean, in the grand scheme of things, that's not going to sink the season. I like that they've bounced back. I don't like that, the Bucs loss, I think, was just whoever had the ball last was going to win that game, similar to last year. I mean, we swept the Bucs and still didn't win the division, so that's not a marker for what's to come. I'm glad we bounced back against the Vikings. That was a good showing. J.J. McCarthy's a young quarterback, but Penix did a decent job against that Flores defense. The running game controlled the game. Defense had their coming out party. So, you take those 2 games, and then what happened in Carolina, that was going to bother me for a while just because it's 30-0. That's an embarrassing score, but the game wasn't that bad. I mean, it was 10-0 at halftime. And, you make those 2 field goals, if we're talking 10-6, it was like it was just a little bit of a push that kind of got the snowball rolling. So that one is just kind of like, all right, just throw that one away. Defense showed what they were capable of, but I think that game highlighted the youth of Michael Penix and also the inexperience of Zach Robinson. And I think the heat that came from that game was, well-deserved, but both of them responded in the game against the Commanders. So the problems that we've seen real-time solutions. Do I think firing Ike Hilliard was a solution to what happened against the Panthers? I don't know. I don't think any of us can really make a definitive judgment either way. Was Zach Robinson coming down to the field? I don't know. I mean, we got 1 game. So we'll see. Would I rather take Ike Hilliard getting fired and Zach Robinson going to the field, giving us 30-point games for the rest of the season? I mean, I'll take it. But, to come home and, in the words of Raheem Morris, to perform like that as an apology to the fans, I will take that, especially going into the bye. So.
Yeah. And it's funny you break up the Panthers game. I always, it bothered me a lot too, because I said something about this game. Something seemed off. It's like, what? I was like, Penix has never been this hesitant. He's a gunslinger. He lets it loose, and everybody just seems out of sorts. And I'm like, this is it felt very weird to me. Why was this team in this way against the Panthers?
You could feel it from the first snap.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny because Bijan made a comment after the game. He kind of talked about it almost like he sounded like we overlooked them. But then I'm like, I get overlooking a team, but the fact that you guys just were out of sort from the first snap, that to me seems like that was more of a fundamental potential coaching issue, right? And communication obviously was a big issue in the Minnesota game. and the Panthers game as well, which they were able to clean up. They were getting the snaps earlier against the Commanders. 18-19, Michael Penix about to line up. Where now you can read the defense. It's not just we're just trying to get set and go, and then I got to read later. So I definitely agree with that, but I am impressed with the response. And so far, essentially, Falcons lose, they respond. Falcons lose, they respond. So we have seen this team can respond. Now, can they build on that? And even through 2-2 in the first month, I just want to bring this up. Falcons got 2 award winners for the month. Bijan Robinson, the NFC Offensive Player of the Month, I believe.
Yep.
And Xavier Watts, also the NFC Rookie Defensive Player of the Month. Obviously, we know what they've done so far. Just didn't know if you had any quick thoughts on that.
I love it. I mean, Bijan came into the season with high expectations, a lot of hype, and he's living up to it. I think part of it is he's kind of a crutch for Zach Robinson. I think it's one thing to be the engine of the offense, but I feel like for a couple games, Bijan seemed like the only one that was alive on the field. So do I want Bijan to hit 2,500 yards, all-purpose yards in the season? Yeah, but in the same breath, I would rather games like this past Sunday against the Commanders be the result, not, games like the Panthers where it's like just give Bijan the ball and hope for the best. So I love that. But Xavier Watts, if you see my tweets on Twitter, man, I love safety play. I always feel like safeties are appreciated in September and October, but May, when it's draft time, they always fall a round or two, and then you get surprised like, oh, how was this guy there?
Yeah.
So when we got Xavier Watts, day one starter, I mean, you don't luck up on 13 interceptions. He should have had 2 against Baker. I mean, if you would have had a 4 interception month as a rookie, I mean, I don't have the stats, but I'd be willing to put that up there with some kind of all-time type production. So you see him getting comfortable by the snap. Like, it's not even a week to week. It's each game he's kind of settling in. And honestly, he's looked better than Jesse. Like, I think, and Jesse's doing other things. It's not me knocking Jesse, but when the ball goes up and I see 31, I have the same calm that I do when I see the 3 back there, which is impressive for a rookie. So,
yeah, man, I think too. I wanted to dive into this. I wonder if a little bit if they're using Jesse a little bit differently. Well, I feel like Jesse, you could feel like he roams. Where now I don't feel like he's roaming as much. Like, I'm not saying he doesn't, but like feels like Xavier's kind of the one who's always if there was a play to be made, he's the one in that position.
Yeah.
And he's made plays so far. So obviously we hope that he continues to grow on that. And obviously he's been a great, revelation for that defense, along with the 4 rookies that, people are going to be keeping up with all season long. But I do want to go back to the offensive side of the ball real quick. And I kind of want to talk about the offensive line. I feel like every week, to a certain extent, I guess outside the Panthers game, they've improved their performance. I feel like week 1, they did fine in the passing game, really couldn't run block. Week 2, did fine in the running game, couldn't really pass block as great. Week 3, obviously, everybody didn't look good. And then week 4, I think, was their best all-around performance as an offensive line, especially Elijah Wilkinson, who obviously people were like, oh my God, are we going to be able to survive without Storm Norton, et cetera, et cetera. But I feel like he's played very commendable. And I think the offensive line, even Matthew Bergeron didn't have a great start first couple of games. I feel like he came off his best game. Like, are you seeing the same things?
Yeah. No, I think that's the difference when you have a quarterback like Michael Penix is, players rally around him. He's got a confidence. He's got an arrogance. And so even when McGarry went down, I was kind of one of the few steadying voices where it's like, hey, look, I know Elijah Wilkinson isn't a hot name. He's, journeyman offensive lineman. He's played guard. He's played tackle. He's just kind of one of those swing guys that, you can get by for a few games. But, for some reason, I was like, I got Michael Penix. Like, I'm just not concerned about one guy going down when the other 4 of them are still the same. Like, I got Dwayne Ledford. I got a good running game. I got a good quarterback. This is just not going to derail this offense. Like, this isn't Mariota. This isn't Ritter. This isn't Heineke. And you've seen that. Like, you see that spirit outside of the Panthers game. Like, you see guys when Penix is on, the whole offense is on. Like it's something about having that kind of quarterback and you see the good quarterbacks. Mahomes took a ragtag offensive line to the Super Bowl. I wasn't expecting that, but you find a way to win. Like Baker's down there without Tristan Wirfs, and they're 3-1. Like you find ways to win, and you don't make excuses for it. And I like that they really rallied and bought into that. And I also think that's new for fans. I mean, for us to be excited about Storm Norton's not good. He's pretty average. Like,
they remember them games where McGarry was out like, wait, we're just fine. Are we sure?
Yeah. So I think it's the same. Like, I think people were just when you get to OT3, yes. I get being a little reserved. I'm not sitting here saying, oh, yeah, like we're going to be fine. But I will hats off to Zach Robinson, hats off to Dwayne Ledford. Like they have schemed around it. And I cannot recall a drive where I'm like, all right, Elijah Wilkinson is the reason why we are losing. So.
No, I mean, that's fair. And listen, this is the thing about the league. You're going to have players playing who aren't special stars, stand out. You just need them to be serviceable. Yep. Even some playoff teams have guys who are just serviceable. Just because, I mean, it's hard to get a really good player at every single spot. Yeah. Unless you're just hitting on young guys. So, for the Falcons, they obviously said he has experience playing here. We feel comfortable that, hey, he can fill in if needed. Again, he was OT3. So it wasn't like this man was planned to even be in this position. They just, you just hope that you get some quality depth at that spot. And it feels like they've gotten that. And I think he's been able to hold up for Penix. So, and obviously, like you said, Penix, kind of when he's on, the offense turns on, the juice turns up, and the offense can kind of reach that level that I think they set for themselves, but I think fans also saw from them as well. Yeah. And that kind of just rolls me into my next question, because when talking about Penix, we probably say his good games were Tampa and Washington, and then his two bad to like okay games were Minnesota and Carolina. And so, obviously, if you're watching this, you've seen 4 games, you're like, okay, I've seen 2 good, 2 bad. Which set of games do you feel like is more of the Michael Penix you think we have? The 2 games against Tampa and Washington, or the 2 games against Carolina and Minnesota? Which one do you think is like, I think that's Michael Penix?
Take the game, take every game except for the Panthers game. So the Panthers game, take those 3 games left, shake them up. That's Michael Penix. Like, I do think the Commanders' defense is not good. I mean, their secondary is not good, and I think they were a bit pissed off. They wanted to prove a point, which I'm glad they proved the point. But also, he played a good game against Brian Flores. I mean, Flores is a pain in the ass. Like, he's going to beat most rookie quarterbacks, and he didn't make a mistake. And so I'll take a check down, 13 for 21 type of day, and don't blow up the game. Like, look at what JJ McCarthy did, and he looked like that was his second start ever. And then against the Bucs, I mean, he really kind of got at it for like a week 1 game. Baker had more turnover-worthy throws than Penix did. I mean, if Caden dropped a pick, Xavier Watts missed 2, and I think Diablo dropped 1. He maybe has 1. Penix maybe has 1 turnover-worthy throw in that game. But if the defense catches any of those opportunities, we're having a different discussion about that week 1 result. Falcons are probably 3-1. Potentially 4-0 if the energy, is kind of there for them, week 3. So like, I do think, honestly, what are we, 7 games in? Out of the seven starts he's had, throw the Panthers game out, I'd say the 2 games against the Commanders are probably your more high-end Michael Penix outings. And I think the week 1 Bucs game is probably your middle-of-the-road standard game for now.
And even in that game, like I said, the one thing I was impressed by was his mental processing, because, Todd Bowles is known for blitzing.
Yep.
And it felt like, every time he blitzed, he had an answer. And I think that just shows you the mental capacity that Michael Penix has. I think even in the Commanders game, you saw quick decision, quick decision, quick decision. So my Penix is not back there holding it like, and that's why I said the Panthers game was uncharacteristic for him. Because I was like, why are you not pulling the trigger? What are you not liking? What are you not seeing? Where like most of the other games, he's pretty much just like, all right, who am I going to? What's my read? Boom, boom, boom. And obviously that could be also part of the offensive design to just make it like, hey, we're not trying to have you go through too many, even though he's not the most, like, he's mobile, but like, he's not like out here looking to run. So I just think it was interesting to kind of see his maturation process. And I'm just glad they also were able to take shots down the field. Because that's the strength of his game. Like literally like his best throws are just down the field. And I think, and this will bring me into Zach Robinson. I know that during the offseason, they kind of looked back at his Washington film and a lot of like what the plays he ran. And they're trying to kind of take some of that and put it in the offense because that's, okay, he was comfortable with this. He did really good at this in college. If we can translate that to the NFL, we could see similar results, especially, like I said, in the big plays and everything. And I think, obviously they did a lot of pistol last year, so I'm not going to say that's why they do a lot of pistol shotgun now. But, I think that they want to create that environment where he's as confident as he was at Washington. Because I think so many people think about, or so I see people always say when he plays well, that's Washington Michael Penix.
Right.
That's
yeah.
that guy. So, obviously, Zach Robinson is the guy who's been, calling the plays. And like I said, came to the sideline, communication seemed to improve, offense seemed to be better churn. I saw better situational at times play calling. You're never going to go 100 for 100 as often play calling, but I saw better situational play calling. That's something I've been kind of harping on. Like, I just feel like the way he calls plays, like, I don't know why we're calling this here.
Yeah.
I guess compared to this game from the Commanders, from the other games you've seen from Zach, did you notice anything majorly different that he was doing?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of people talk about the choice routes. I think that's the flavor of the week with the offense. I think those were there. I'm still not a big fan of the pistol, but I think Dwayne Ledford is cooking up a very varied rushing attack. I mean, you're seeing it may look like outside zone from the handoff action, but you're getting trap, you're getting counter, you're getting, dives, you're getting everything that you want. It's just still, you line up in pistol is going to be a run. And if it's a pass, most times it's not really there's no energy to the attack. And as a defense, it's like, all right, cool. Like if I know you're going to be in pistol, I don't care if you tried out 12 personnel. I don't care what personnel you tried out. I'm playing the odds. Like that's just really what it comes down to. And, give credit to the O-line for, blocking well, Bijan being Bijan, but I just don't think Zach is doing enough to elevate. Like if Zach didn't have the talent that he had, this offense looks different. I mean, I remember when we hired Kyle back in 2015, and everybody's like, oh, he's with the Browns suck. And I'm like, well, he had no talent. And the offense was still able to kind of find ways to make things shake. You give Kyle Shanahan, Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, Devontae Freeman, and we're going to the Super Bowl. Like you see what happens when a good scheme elevates the players instead of the players are elevating this scheme. And I think that's my biggest issue. I mean, play action, I feel like is just basic stuff. Kyle Pitts scoring in the red zone, that should be a staple play. When you have Bijan, the gravity that he attracts, a simple play fake gets everybody open. Like I understand you want Bijan to be the engine, but the lack of play action is literally just the easiest, especially if you want to take shots downfield. If you want to take shots, I can get hard play action. Lack of under center. When we go under center, we've had some production, but it's very, sporadic. And then even our short yardage just lacks imagination. Like it's almost like, at times, like you said, Zach Robinson is just kind of asking Madden. It's just like, hey, here's a play. This should work. Here's a play.
Like a random. Hey, let's try this out.
Yeah, like it still doesn't feel like there is a cohesion or a rhyme or reason in his play calling. Like it feels like back when Dirk Cutter was the offensive coordinator, where it's like, okay, you guys complained about this last week. Let me call this. And when it doesn't work, it's almost like proof of, see, this is why I don't call it. Or when it does work, it's almost like out of spite, I'm not going to call it anymore because I don't want the fans dictating my play calling style. So like that's why I'm like, I don't know if it was different or not. Just because also the Commanders' defense just isn't good. I mean, they can't stop the run. They're terrible against the pass, and the Falcons were pissed off. So the operation was cleaner. I will say that. I mean, there were no delay of games. I do think the receivers could be a little bit better. Like Ray, I feel like is kind of mentally checked out at times. I think Mooney's still trying to get back in the groove of things. Drake is him. I think Drake is finally over the shoulder injury from earlier in the year. Kyle Pitts is showing up like is expected. So it's like the talent is there. I want Zach to be a little bit more proactive on attacking. And just like string them together. Like I feel like this week, the mesh rail concept was the one that they were like, okay, this is going to work. And he kind of spammed it a little bit. Like Zach does have a tendency to spam the play that you can see where the light bulb went off for him during the week. And then he's going to go back to it over and over and over again. But, when you turn on, Sean McVay, you turn on Kevin O'Connell, like, the McVay tree guys, you can kind of see what they're building on. You turn on, Liam Cohen or, any of the Tampa guys, and you kind of see the rhythm, like how they can get their guys into a rhythm pretty quickly. And Zach was able to do that on Sunday. I just hope he can do it more consistently because you get Penix into a rhythm, then you're getting the deep shots, you're getting him kind of in a groove, and, everything else clicks from there. So.
Yeah, and the thing is, too, I think, obviously, like you said, we only have had 1 week sample size of him on the sideline. So we don't know if this is something that can be maintained. Obviously, coming out of the bye, they have a very big test against Buffalo, and that will be an interesting, game to see kind of where they are in terms of that. Now, I will say that, there have been some things I've noticed that changed. Like I remember week 1 when he would do the Charlie Warner motion and then he would just run where he motioned. I'm like, well, yeah. I mean, if he's motioning where the run play is going to go there. Where I feel like he has tried to now like, oh, we'll motion him, but go the opposite direction, which you need that type of, where the defense is like, all right, I don't know if they're going where Charlie's going or we need to go the other direction. Like you need that type of unpredictability because the problem is we thought he was predictable.
Yeah.
And so, which I do also like how they use Charlie Warner because it's different. They use him as the quarterback blocker. They use him as the motion guy. Clearly, and I mean, if you need him to, he could be out of the backfield, catch the ball too. So I think this is a very unique way of using him while allowing Kyle Pitts to just kind of focus a little bit more as a receiver.
Yep.
And so on and so forth. But I do say too, remember when we drafted Bijan and people were like, he's a passing game. You can do all these things with him. And Arthur Smith was frustrating because it's like, sitting him, you're like, what are we doing? Like, we're not using him to his best abilities. I feel like this year, I can say for Zach, I feel like he's using Bijan, especially the passing game. I feel like that's where I'm seeing it more. Because I feel like as a receiver, we've seen it, but I feel like this year he's like, that's why I love kind of that concept of like Warner's in the backfield. And they're like, okay, we'll have Bijan in the slot.
Yep.
Where it's like, all right, instead of having maybe a tight end that you're not worried about, we can have Bijan, which you got to be worried about. And if you can get a mismatch on a linebacker or something, you can create a play. Because I know you kind of mentioned like you feel like he kind of like sometimes will spam Bijan at times. But is it fair to say that this is probably the best utilization of Bijan?
This was the game to spam Bijan. Like Bobby Wagner was never going to keep up with Bijan. Like it was impossible. And I feel like Frankie Louvu is their best front seven player. and it put him in more conflict there to the point where he couldn't just disrupt. I mean, Frankie Louvu was an all-pro player last year, and you basically negated his impact by moving Bijan around. So yes, I do give him credit. And I think that's just one of those things where, again, you just, when defenses can just key on, okay, if Bijan's always in the backfield, if Bijan, we get pistol and Bijan is back there, all right, cool. Like, I'm ready. The moment you throw Tyler Algier in the game, okay, I know you're running, some kind of power concept. But I do think, and that's kind of why I wanted to give, Leffert his credit, just because, he's the run game coordinator. And so I don't know kind of how that, marriage is working, but, he's cooking in the run game. Like, even like you said, there was a play where they sent Charlie Warner in motion and ran, toss crack to the other side, got Jake and Bijan out on the edge where I think it was a pretty decent game. So, yeah, I mean, like, spam it, but also, like, not too much.
I get it.
I don't want Bijan to have too many touches, and then we look up and it's like, we go 9-8, and Drake is disgruntled. Kyle Pitts was on pace to have a career year, but he didn't get enough, targets. You don't get the production. Like, it's all there, and it's, it's a good problem to have this many good players to figure out how to get the ball to them. But, I do like getting Bijan in space where he's not taking those, hits from the D line. If he's getting hit, it's out in space, or he can run out of bounds. So you're limiting that, physical wear and tear on him. So,
yeah, and two, with that, in the 2 wins, I think Tyler Algier's had 10 plus carries. So, and he's had solid games in those games. I think, because I know that's a big thing with people where, like, okay, what's going to happen with Algier after this year? Like, is he going to go on, try to become a starter somewhere, or, can the Falcons potentially get him back? But you kind of see the benefit of having him around, just different, change of pace, more of a power, downhill, violent runner. Obviously, the touchdown he scored against the Commanders, you saw it. I mean, and I think people, and I know it's always a debate, like, who should be the short yardage back, Bijan or Tyler, but I think that, it just really helps them, I think, get more into a flow offensively. Just like I said, going to the bread and butter. What this offensive line was built on running the football.
Yep.
So, like, you got to go with what they have been known for. And if you do that, that will only help your young quarterback. And then if they decide to do some type of play action, they can do that. So it's one of those things where it's like, you got to understand the benefit of having that there for them.
Yeah.
Continuing to grow on that. So I think the offense, you hope that this continues, just because, we think the offense should be able to do this. Like, they have talent, like I said, hopefully Darnell Mooney, he had the hamstring. They say he won't miss time, so he should be back for the Bills game. I've said Ray, when you brought him up, I was like, I feel like Ray has not had a greatest start to the season, which is also making me be like, all right, if you're the Falcons coaches, do you listen? I'm not saying other receivers are doing anything, but I mean, Casey Washington, if you can stay healthy, you got a shot here. You have a shot here. Like, you can take that job. I mean, they probably use him just for run blocking, but even, David Stills, I mean, he's still, I see this man get reps. So, I mean, because they're like, I need a better run blocker here.
Yeah, I mean, it's there. Like, I do think, because Casey was getting snaps. He only got 1 catch, but, Ray's giving me -7 yards and dropping the ball, and Casey's converting first downs on third down. So he's already got, rhythm with Penix. I wouldn't be surprised if you see, coming out of the bye week, Casey gets a lot more wide receiver 3 action. And you put Ray more on, punt return, kick return. My only concern with that is Ray seems like the type that if he gets demoted, if you want to kind of call it, that he's going to try and do too much to kind of make up for it. Because you saw that in the Panthers game. You've seen that in a couple games last year. You see it at times where Ray tries to make up for mistakes instead of just kind of letting it go and moving on. But I also think Ray could be a very good jet sweep threat. I think he could be a very good screen threat. It's just those things aren't in the playbook for some reason. I mean, I don't want to run a jet sweep with Bijan. That's just not Bijan's game. I don't want to do it with Mooney. Mooney's not. I don't want Mooney taking those kind of hits potentially. So like I think Ray has a lot more potential than he is being used to, play to. I do think what they're asking Ray to do, Casey can do better, but that doesn't. And that's what I'm kind of trying to be careful. Where I'm like, I think Ray is just natural return type. So put him in that, almost quasi Cordero Patterson role. Like I'm not asking him to be a running back, but some of those things where, CP gave us some juice, his first couple of years, when he was here, that other players just couldn't.
Yeah. And I know hopefully, I know some people still wonder if the Falcons should be looking at a receiver. Maybe when the trade deadline pops up, is that something they need to look into? I know some people are like, do they need more speed? Things like that. And I'm just like, I feel like they're cool with what they have. And I think they're confident in even their practice squad guys, Chris Blair, if he gets caught up, David Stills. I mean, shoot, even though Nick Nash, I don't see him getting caught up unless we have a rash of injuries. But I think they're like, we'll just let them continue to grow. And then we'll just run with what we got. And it works for Penix. So overall, I think offensively, like I said, we should be headed in a good direction. So
it should be going up. I think we're trending up. My angst with Zach aside, I think the offense is trending. I mean, it's percolating a little bit. I think we'll be fine.
Yeah, I think we'll be good too there. But I want to go back to the defensive side of the ball, and I want to go back to the D line really. I believe we're top 5. I remember seeing in sacks. I think we're tied for like 5th.
Yep.
In sacks. And, the way I see it when I see people talk about the games, I feel like I see a lot of people are like, "Where's the rush?" I think it's been definitely. I think there's been times where it's like, all right, you can see him getting there, creating pressure, getting after it. Obviously, Minnesota was the most successful, like in terms of actually getting the sacks. I believe they had 2 this past week on Mariota. So like It just feels like because they're a young D line, we really won't see it maybe more consistently till later in the year, just because of the youth of the line. Agree? Disagree?
Yeah. You also got to give credit to the quarterbacks you're playing. It's hard to sack Mariota. I mean, he's fast as hell. We saw when he was here. Like, it's hard to sack him. So, take that in the books. It's hard to sack Bryce. Like, it's some of these quarterbacks are hard to sack. We had Baker dead to rights quite a few times. You turn on any Bucks game and Baker is, pulling a rabbit out of his hat on 3rd down when he should be sacked for 8-10 yard loss. So I'm not complaining. I mean, the D line has been getting pressure. You've seen the rookies show up in different spots. You've seen the vets show up. I mean, Rook is leading the league in pressure rate at D tackle. You see it, like you see the young legs where last year, Jimmy Lake was heavy use of Grady, Onyemata, Judon, James Smith-Williams. Like he was very reluctant. He had a real aversion to the young players. But you got to let them play. You got to let them run. They got the young legs that the vets don't have anymore. I mean, you can see a couple reps from Leonard Floyd, and you see the difference in his rush compared to James Pierce and even Jalen Walker sometimes. Like he's not covering the ground the same, but he's more assignment sound. He's not really going to make a lot of mistakes. So it's kind of that trade-off where do I want to kind of let the youngins loose, or do I kind of want to play it safe? And Ulbricht's kind of he's leaned into it. He's like, look, I've got Rook, I've got Dorless, I've got Walker, I've got Pierce. Do your thing. And, sometimes you see him, he's throwing Caden down there to come off the edge. So I am enjoying what I'm seeing. Like I even said it after the Panthers game. I was like, hey, look, defense had a good game. And, when you see 30-0, the first thought is defense must have gotten abused, but they didn't give up much. I mean, it was a lot of short fields. The D-line was getting pressure. But once you get down big enough, you don't have to make a quarterback throw the ball once you get down double digits. I mean, you saw it in the Vikings game. We just ran the clock out and made them, just run blitz over and over. You can't get a sack on a run play. So, I think the pass rush is, we're talking a 40, 43 sack season. I had no complaints. It could be, it's been a lot worse. This is a good pass rush so far. Not the best in the league, but it's a good one.
Yeah, and all you want to see is progress and just the ability to impact the passer. I think, obviously, I'm very curious. Obviously, again, Bills game coming up. How can they impact Josh Allen? This is probably the biggest quarterback, strongest quarterback with athleticism you're playing this year. So I'm very curious to see how Jeff Ulbrich tries to attack that. And I feel like, I definitely feel like that could be more of a Caden Ellis game, just because he's a little bit more athletic. And there are times where Caden's been back there and he just, quarterback slips out of it.
Yeah.
So I could see him maybe going kind of like what he did against Minnesota when he was kind of doing those 5 down. He'll kind of have 4, and then Ellis gets to the end, and now it's 5, kind of like that. Yeah. And kind of try to see what it is, especially with AJ potentially coming back, which probably would give you more confidence to do something like that.
You got to throw Troy coming back in there. I mean,
is he?
We can jump to the second level. I'm with you. I mean, you put Diablo's got 4.4 speed. Troy's got 4.4 speed. Caden's not as fast as them, but he's not slow. And so I do think this game will come down more so to the second level, the athleticism on the second level. We're not trotting out J.D. Bertrand and Nate Landman, and Nate was good. Nate was just banged up last year. So, the moment you got Nate in space, the play was over. And so I do think having that much second level athleticism, that even if you do send Caden, let's say you do run a true 3 linebacker package with Troy, Diablo, Caden, you're not losing speed at that second level. And I don't think the receivers are all that threatening. I mean, Josh Allen hasn't had more than 215 yards passing the past 3 games. It's really been the run game, the ground game, and James Cook just taking over. So it's going to be a big time show for the linebackers. D-line, good run D's, force some 3rd and longs, but it's still Josh Allen. I mean, he's 2015 Cam Newton right now. There's going to be some magic that happens. It's a primetime matchup. He's going to get his, but it's going to be some opportunities for the second level guys to make some, even Jalen Walker and James Pierce. When it's time to make the play, they got to be ready to make that play. So, yeah,
definitely. And how much do you think getting AJ back is going to help, especially in this game? Just because I think D. Alford's done a commendable job.
Massive.
But, AJ will help.
Massive. I mean, it's either Keon Coleman or Khalil Shakir. I mean, that's it. And Keon Coleman he's okay. I'm not gonna say he's bad. He's not better than Ted McMillan. He's not better than Egbuka. He's not better than Justin Jefferson. This is the type of game that AJ has to show why he's an all-pro caliber corner. Because I'm fine with Mike Hughes. I'm fine with D. Alford. I still got Billy Bowman, Dalton Kincaid. I don't think Dalton Kincaid is better than Cade Otton. In terms of Kincaid last year, he had 2 games over 50 yards. And Cade Otton had 4 or 5 of them. I mean, he had a 100-yard game. Cade Otton was doing a lot of work for the Bucs last year. I think Kincaid is just more, get to a spot, convert 3rd downs, or convert in the low red zone. But if you can force Josh to drop back and try and beat you throwing the ball, I don't trust that he can do it with these weapons. Especially if AJ's healthy, especially with Ulbrich having experience against the Bills, offense, and being able to, play a little bit aggressive. If it's a close game, I like the way our defense matches up. If they can run the ball, Bills defense isn't good stopping the run. If you can go run the ball, control the clock, and keep the pressure on the Bills to keep up on the road, I like our defense, which is very weird to say. It's like this is the reigning MVP coming to town, and I'm like, yeah, I don't care. Like he's the best player. It's him, James Cook, and then everybody else is kind of mid, frankly speaking. So yeah, but they got a good offensive coordinator. He knows the weaknesses of their offense, and so he's gonna coach to it. So we'll see. I think it'll be interesting to see how the Patriots defend them on Sunday. I think Vrabel's those boys are coached up well in New England, and I think they'll kind of give you a bit of a blueprint on how to attack the Bills' offense, and it'll be interesting to see how much of that carries over into our game. So,
yeah, for sure. And I think too, when you have those types of guys like a Josh Allen, they can just kind of will you to victory. And it'll be interesting. Like I said, right now you're the Falcons. You're 1-0 in prime time. The Falcons defense is now allowed over 10 points in the first half in the first 4 games. So first half wise, they do a pretty good job. And I think they allow the fewest yards per game in the NFC.
Yep. Second fewest in the league. Yeah. Like it's
you ain't sitting here thinking the Falcons are doing this. And it's like, for all the criticisms, it's like, okay, how bad have they really? Like I always tell people, do y'all not remember the days with no pass rush, no coverage, the linebackers suck? Like just every game you have to score 30 or you ain't got a shot.
holding on for dear life.
Like it can be way worse. But I think sometimes sometimes there's that Falcon fans like I'm expecting the worst. I'm expecting the worst here to happen with the team. And and also too, relatively for the most part, outside of, like I said, a couple of injuries, they've been healthy.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like you've had these rash of injuries destroying your team. So, and it's funny because I feel like the bye week's kind of coming at a good time for them, even though early, just because to get those guys back. Okay, we're going into it positively. Now, how can we build? How can we build consistency and then get into that next game? Because now you're not coming back on Monday. So you get even one more day on top of that to get ready. So I guess I'll hit you with my last question before I let you go. We did kind of talk about the defense with that Bills game, but what would be your offensive X factor, big thing you think for that side of the ball against the Bills and that defense?
Oh, it's the big three. I mean, it's outside of Penix. I mean, the Bills aren't good at running, stopping the run. They give up the most yards in the AFC, second most yards in the league. And they've been in blowouts. So it's not like, they've been in close games where it's like, oh, okay, like the run game has been pretty consistent and pretty available. I mean, they beat the Jets 30-10. They beat the Dolphins 31-21. They beat the Saints 31-19. Like, and to still be giving up that kind of yardage on the ground, I think they can be had. I think Bijan should have another one of those games. But also when it comes to coverage, you play zone. Drake is second best receiver versus zone coverage this season so far. You play man. Kyle Pitts is the best tight end versus man coverage this season. I mean, it's one of those ones where it comes down to Penix and Zach Robinson being on the same page to let them dogs loose. Like, I don't think they can slow down Bijan on the ground. They got Russo, they got Ed Oliver, they've got Joey Bosa, they're getting Matt Milano back. Like it's a battle tested defense. I just do think that we are not a good matchup for them. Like, but I think it comes down to the game plan Zach puts together and making sure Penix is locked and loaded and ready to go. Because if those two are, who's going to guard who's going to guard Kyle Pitts, and whatever linebacker you have guarding Kyle Pitts is also in charge of stopping Bijan. Like it's so much conflict between those two that the more you kind of back and forth on those, everything else opens up. So I know it's really kind of all of them, but like I do think it comes down to Bijan has to dominate in the run game. When we get zone, Drake has to dominate versus zone, and when we get man, Kyle Pitts has to be unguardable in man. Like it just because if Penix is on, but they're stopping the run, and Drake isn't getting open, and Pitts isn't getting open, it don't really matter how good my quarterback is playing. Now we're relying on Mooney to win, Ray to win, you know, Charlie Warner on some checkdowns, maybe. Like it gets pretty sparse pretty quick. So the big three have to win their matchups. So
yeah, and I would probably agree with that as well. I think, you know, this definitely seems like a Bijan and Tyler game. Just really establish that on the ground. So, you know, and obviously, because I don't know if this is a game where you come into it as the offensive coordinator and it's kind of like, all right, we want to win time in possession, want to eat clock, keep it out of Josh Allen's hands as much as possible. You know, because sometimes
keep the crowd involved. I know it's a home game, but treat it like a road game and running game and defense. As long as you do that and let Algier run some people over and you keep the crowd turned up in the bins, I could see it. I could see it.
Hey, they're gonna need it for sure, man. Especially like I said, your second prime time game here. So we can keep that an undefeated streak going on there. At least we can say when we're in front of the bright lights, we win those games. So I mean that's that's obviously valid. That's very valid, man. But hey, man, I appreciate you, man, coming on to the show, man. You know, just sharing some of the wisdom, man. Let people know where they can find you.
Man, I appreciate it. Go ahead and follow me on Twitter at _the King _ if you don't already. And then King's Landing every week. We got an episode. Not this week. I was on vacation, but the good people at the Barbershare Network sponsor the show. And you know, me and my brother are talking Falcons. He's more ranting. I'm more kind of he's the voice of the fans, and I'm more voice of the reason. So.
Gotcha. Yes, sir. Hey, man, you know, it's always good to have that, you know, I'm like this. He's a little bit different, you know, so you can get both mixtures. You don't have to get the same one on the show, man. So definitely check that out for sure. Good stuff over there. And obviously, guys, if y'all enjoyed this episode, subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave a comment down below about anything we discussed. Obviously, go follow him if you want to, you know, keep up with what he's saying about the team on game days, after the game. He be active, you know what I'm saying? Some people be coming for him, some people be loving him, you know. It's part of the job. But definitely appreciate it, like I said, coming on to the show, man, talking to Falcons. And like I said, they have a bye week this week. We'll see, you know, obviously the week goes, and then we will get back into game preparation week against the Buffalo Bills on Monday Night Football. But that's about it for Jarrett. I'm Bryce. See you next time.